I never believed a doll could watch me. That was until the night I caught Annabelle's glassy eyes following me across the room. From that moment on, I knew something was wrong. And whatever it was growing stronger by the second. It started with a trip I never wanted to take. My sister was obsessed with paranormal legends, and for her birthday, she begged me to go with her to the Occult Museum in Connecticut. The one that supposedly housed Annabelle? The doll. I wasn't into that sort of thing. I liked scary movies. Sure. But I never thought those stories about cursed objects were anything more than campfire tales blown out of proportion. But standing in that dim room with its cold glass cases and stale air, I felt a kind of heaviness I couldn't shake. My sister pressed her hands against the glass around Annabelle's case, like she was looking at a celebrity. I kept my distance. The doll didn't look terrifying. Not really. It was just a ragged, Raggedy Ann-style doll. Stitched smile, crooked, faded cloth sagging from years of wear. And yet, the longer I looked, the more I felt the room bending in around me like all the sound had been swallowed. Strange things started happening in the days after. Small, insignificant things at first. My keys weren't where I left them. The kitchen faucet turned on by itself. My phone would flicker between screens even when I wasn't touching it. I tried telling myself it was stress, lack of sleep, but deep down I felt something building. One night, I came home from work to find my bedroom door wide open. I always shut it before leaving. Always. Inside, nothing was out of place except one detail. My old stuffed animal from childhood, buried for years in the back of a drawer, was sitting upright on my bed. I froze in the doorway. I lived alone. The air smelled faintly of mildew, that same stale scent I remembered from the museum. I backed out of the room slowly, heart pounding, and left my apartment entirely, not returning until sunrise. I started staying at my sister's house. She laughed when I told her, saying I was letting the museum get to me. But she let me crash in her spare room. That night, she teased, "Don't worry, Annabelle's still locked up tight." But the nightmares followed me there too. This one was different. I dreamt I was paralyzed in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to move. My sister's laughter echoed through the walls, warping, distorting, until it wasn't her voice anymore. It was higher-pitched, mocking. I forced my eyes to the corner of the room, and there she was again, sitting cross-legged on the dresser. Annabelle. Her button eyes were fixed on me, but her stitched mouth was slowly, impossibly curving into a wider smile than it had in the museum. I woke up gasping, convinced I'd actually seen her there in the dark. The next morning, my sister came into the room holding something in her hands. My stomach dropped. It was my childhood stuffed animal, the same one that had been moved in my apartment. She held it out and said, "Funny thing, I found this in the kitchen this morning. Did you bring it?" I hadn't. The tension escalated quickly after that. My sister started noticing things too. She'd hear soft knocks at her bedroom door in the middle of the night, even when I was asleep in the guest room. Her lights would flicker and objects in her living room shifted when she left the space for even a few minutes. One night, we were both awake late, too scared to sleep. We left the TV on for background noise, but around 2:45 a.m., it flickered and cut out completely. The room plunged into silence and darkness. Then, faint, but unmistakable, we heard the sound of fabric dragging across the hardwood floor like something small was moving, sliding. We froze. It came from the hallway, slow, deliberate. Then, it stopped, right outside the living room. My sister whispered, "Do you hear that?" I nodded, unable to speak. Then, a soft thud against the doorframe. Once, twice, 3 times. Neither of us moved until dawn. We called a priest the next day. He blessed the apartment, muttered prayers, sprinkled holy water. For a while, it seemed to help. The air felt lighter, the heaviness gone. My sister relaxed, even laughed again. I tried to convince myself it was over, but it wasn't. 2 weeks later, I returned to my own apartment, trying to reclaim my space. I kept every light on that first night, exhausted, but determined not to give in to fear. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of faint scratching. It was coming from the inside of my closet. I held my breath, trying to rationalize mice the building, settling, anything. But then, Slowly, the closet door creaked open on its own. And sitting there, in the shadows, was Annabelle. Not the real doll from the museum. Of course, I knew she was still locked away. But there, she was all the same. Her head tilted, her body limp, but her presence undeniable. I blinked, and she was gone. Just an empty closet. But on the floor, where she had been sitting, lay my childhood stuffed animal. It hasn't stopped since. Some nights, I hear the giggling. Other nights, I wake up and find my belongings rearranged. Doors left ajar. My sister refuses to talk about it anymore. She swears whatever followed me has started showing up at her place too. We never touched that case in the museum. We never broke the rules. But I know what's happening. Annabelle doesn't need you to touch her. She just needs you to look too long. And once you do, she never looks away.